to all the speakers. Request you to please look into the camera while speaking. All the best. Yes, Tanmay, you're live.
Good morning and a warm welcome to our distinguished panelists and the industry colleagues. My name is Tanmay Paul and I'm the Group Project Director at Messe München, India. We are a German trade fair organizing company and we organize over 20 trade fairs in a year. We started our operations in India with Electronica India and Productonica India trade fairs, which are South Asia's largest electronics trade fairs. With over 25,000 industry professionals attending these trade fairs, it makes it the biggest gathering of electronic professionals in India. So before we come to the webinar topic, let us have a look at these amazing trade fairs. My colleague Anjali will show you a 2-minute video of the trade fairs. Anjali, can you please play the video?
Thank you so much for Electronica. Has given us kind of opportunity to address customers and to know our brand, getting more popular.
Electronica helps us to, bring the customers to a location whereby we get to know them, we get their contacts, and from there we explore. And it also gives us the opportunity to create our brand, to create the brand awareness about Hero Day. So I think this has been very fruitful for the past 7 years.
We have been participating for the last 10 years. We can see really good response. Every year the size of the show is increasing, number of visitors increasing, and we can see much more customers every time.
Productonica itself has created its own brand and a big name, and I think they are helping the industry and the customers for bonding up and showcasing their products to the customers.
When it comes to buyer and seller forum, it was really great experience for me. It was a hassle-free, and the moment I came here, all the meetings were organized, and most of the meetings are useful for me. It is really helpful for my business. We have been exhibiting and we have been getting good leads. We have been trying to converting them into good sales contacts, and also we have also made a few businesses out of the leads already from our previous exhibition. So it has been a good experience with Electronica Messe München.
Thank you, Anjali. And this will be the 21st edition of Electronica India and Productronica India. And we hope everybody to be a part of this electronics gathering in September. I see that the number of participants have crossed 600, which is phenomenal. And it shows that the topic that we have picked up today is absolutely right. The COVID pandemic has spread to almost every country in the world, which highlights the shortcomings of the healthcare system worldwide. And in the past few weeks, all of us must have realized an important thing, that if our healthcare industry is not equipped to manage such pandemic, it can have a disastrous impact on the economy. As we are experiencing, the world has almost come to a standstill, and we can see its impact on the global economy. It surely underlines an important point that there is a need to create a robust healthcare infrastructure. Today, we have invited some of the topmost experts working in the field of medical electronics who will share with us the challenges this industry is facing right now and what lies ahead. It gives me an immense pleasure. We have experts representing the medical device fraternity. Please join me in welcoming Commander Divya Prakash Joshi. He is the Senior Director and Site Leader, Medtronic Engineering and Innovation Center. Good morning, Commander Divya Prakash.
Yeah,
We
good
have
morning.
Mr.
Good morning, everyone.
We have Mr. Praveen Nagpal, Chief Operating Officer, BPL Medical Technologies. Good morning, Mr. Nagpal.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting us here. Thank you.
We have Mr. Vishwa Prasad Alva, Managing Director, Scanray Technologies.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now let me introduce the stalwarts representing the EMS and PCB industry. Mr. Kushal Patel, he is the Managing Director of Fine Line Circuit Company and Chairman of Indian Printed Circuit Association. Good morning, Mr. Patel.
Good morning, Tanmay. Thank you for having me here.
Colonel Sharad Bhatt, Senior Vice President, Business Development, Keynes Technologies. Good morning, Colonel Bhatt.
Namaste, Tanmay.
Namaste. And we have Mr. Vivek Khanna, Managing Director, Indic EMS Electronics. Good morning, Mr. Khanna.
Hi, good morning.
Our moderator today is Mr. Sandeep Arora. He is the Vice President, India Electronics and Semiconductor Association. He has over 20 years of experience, and he has previously the head of marketing, market development and government relations at Intel. So before I hand it over to Mr. Arora, I have a request to all the attendees. If you have any questions, kindly post your questions in the question and answer section and not in the chat box. And I would also request everybody to stay away from any sales promotion in the chat. And with this, I hand it over to Mr. Arora.
Hi everyone, and I'm so glad to be here with all of you discussing this very, very important topic. With what we have seen the COVID pandemic do is it is a big learning for all of us in the industry, and as they say, never waste a crisis. This crisis has shown us where we were not prepared. This crisis has shown us on what we need to do going forward. And the medical electronic industry is one such segment which needs so much attention, so much urgent attention that I welcome Tanmay and team for hosting this. I think this is a very, very apt topic, and I hope we are able to do justice to the next 1 hour for all the participants. And as Tanmay said, please send your questions via chat, and we'll try to answer many of them. The format we'll use is, I have a few questions in mind, and I will go around the panelists and ask some questions. And if your queries get satisfied with those questions, very good, with those discussions. And if you still have queries, please send them. So we will try to finish the panel in the next about 30 to 35 minutes. And then we'll have 10 to 15 minutes for open questions from other people. If you are asking a questions to participants, and if you want a specific panelist to answer that question, please mention so that we exactly know what clarification you need. Okay. So let me welcome all the panelists. I think the virtual panels are going to become a norm going forward. I think Mr. Alva, I know that you have a hard stop. So let me start with you first. Two things from your standpoint as you manage Skanray, Mr. Alva. What is the business model for this developing ecosystem as we develop this medical electronic ecosystem overall? What are the business models emerging? What are you seeing as things changing, things developing? Any old models which are worthy of use today, or do we need to change business models? What kind of partnerships, what kind of ecosystem we need to generate? And the second part, I need to ask you, Mr. Alva, is what kind of government policies and incentives do you think we should have in India to incentivize developing, researching, and manufacturing medical electronics in India?
Okay. Thank you. We started Skanray in 2012 as a commercial launch, and 2007 in incubation mode. And ever since, we have seen the market evolving from a 600 million, 1 billion market to about $4 billion in medtech. And what we found when we started the company was it was dominated by the MNCs, and smaller companies were either outdated technology or they were very small. There were companies that are of the size of $2 million to $3 million. There was not a company that was exporting to developed countries from India. Now, we are all technocrats, mostly from engineering, who started the company. And if we had a chartered accountant or an IAM from an MBA from IAM, definitely they would have discouraged us from venturing into this segment. But later on, what we found was that the opportunity is very big. It's possible. Now, let me list some of the things. One of the most important things that we had as a barrier was having system designers. We have a lot of engineers who are embedded software, mechanical engineers, analytics people, analysis, FEA and all that, but put everything into a single product, connect with the applications team, design something around the requirement and for the global. There was a very severe shortage of resources. The second one was the supplier base. MedTech volumes are very low, and thanks to the Chinese, we have a price pressure also. Usually when the volumes are low, the price points are very high, like in automotive or defense. You have low volumes but high price realization. Here you have low volumes and low price. So we had to develop a supplier base, and for the knowledge of people who are listening, we started with the first pass yield of single digits. So the first product that we launched was a dental X-ray unit, which we exported. The first shipment was made for the US, for Brazil, and also sold in Kerala in India. And we found that we could, if we make 100 machines, only 9 of them used to pass without rework. So it took us about 6 years to get to a 90% or 85% first pass yield. That is one of the biggest challenges. When you have large volumes, there are suppliers who will automate and give you the right precision. When the volumes are low, you have a lot of work to do. The second one is application, as I said, knowing medical domain, working with the doctors, and giving a product finish. See, we export to about 80 countries, and the toughest market for us was Germany and Japan. When we had a lot of orders from US, we had the Japanese writing a 50-page note on quality issues. And then we shipped to Germany. We had, after correcting everything, we had another maybe 20 points of things on quality, which are all related to finer finishes. It is not product performance or technology. It is mostly with the packing, with the plastics, with the way the parts made or screws protruding and things like that. So it's taken a long time. Now the good part of medtech is that the domestic market is growing. Even now we are covering about 20% of the population. If Ayushman Bharat and the rest of the schemes click, there is a huge market opening up. And like how the Chinese made the mobile technology global, India and China together can make medtech global with the volumes and technology of derived out of the world. One more last point on this is global networking. So our second R&D base was built in Bologna in Italy, which is a very successful R&D setup. We acquired a company in Italy, then we acquired another one in Netherlands, and we set up an small R&D center in China and in US. So the key to succeed is to have a global network. Not everything can be made here. Not all the good things can be built overnight. It has taken time. And for the Indian market and the business model, I think we should be looking at very innovative ways, because India is a very large country, coverage is less. We have to focus on telemedicine and home care. We created a company called ScanCare Telemedicine, which acquired a couple of hospitals and tried to do home care, but we are not very successful, not because of technology, because of the delivery model. So that is about the business model. And coming to government policies and incentives, I don't think there is much that the government can do except build a test facility to help build talent around systems through a partnership with institutions and industry. By the way, Mysore is also having the country's first private public sector advanced test facility, which we are doing with the government of India and the Karnataka government. And in terms of incentives, I think if the government is fair in tendering, see, a lot of Indian manufacturers, the so-called manufacturers, are buying Chinese products and labeling and selling it as their own brand. Now, recently, government has made a policy where if we match the L1 price, 40% of the orders. So this is a positive step. The other roadblock is availability of funds. Banks are very slow to support on working capital. Even if you get the order spurt, it will take about 3 weeks to 4 weeks to even get the banks to process the working capital loan. Private equity is a good way to raise funds, but it comes with its own set of challenges. When the fund matures, you will have to really look for another fund, and you have to look for 3x or 25% or 30% IRR, which will put a lot of stress on the character of the company. So with this, I would stop and wait for others to.
Thank you, Mr. Alva. And I think to your point, the funding requirement for strategic sectors like this has to be in the form of strategic equity, right? You can't expect very high IRR in a short time, because that changes the whole scope of the way you do research and the way you approach the problem. Absolutely, and thank you so much. Very, very fair inputs. Continuing on the government policies and incentives and what else can be done. Can I ask Colonel Sharad Bhatt to come in and give views on what kind of policies or inputs or initiatives we think we need from the government side to help this industry move forward at a much faster pace?
Thank you. What government is trying to do is taking a three-pronged attack. At the outset, they are trying to set up regulatory controls. So very soon we will be seeing that a lot of regulatory controls will come in, because today the market is saturated with, as Mr. Alva says, Chinese products, and which fail, functionally fail. And there are no regulatory rules which wherein a particular consumer can take them to court or try to get his whatever fault has happened repaired. So government has stepped in, and Niti Aayog is trying to set this right by bringing in regulatory control. This will definitely ensure that your cheap products do not get into the country. Secondly, government is also promoting clusters, or I will say the medical device parks. And that's a very good initiative. So what they are trying to replicate is a cluster growth or cluster environment or ecosystem, which can promote faster delivery of products, especially in the medical device market, because medical device market has challenges on regulatory and compliances and certifications. They need faster turnaround as far as reliability is concerned. So these particular device parks will have common facility centers, proper funding can happen to this particular parks, and they can actually grow these device parks into an ecosystem which can actually further spur the ancillary industries. Apart from these two areas, they are also trying to give incentives in terms of 25% incentives on if you are getting into the MSIPs. And all these incentives are being trying to be formulated, and we'll see it coming in, especially dovetailed with the startup incentives which are already there, trying to see that the homegrown medical companies actually grow substantially. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel Bhatt. I think very, very valid inputs. And I think whatever government is doing currently is obviously appreciable. And then whatever inputs we collect today, obviously from ISA side as well as from industry side, we will take it forward further also if anything else is needed and we need any more impetus from this industry standpoint. Let me shift gears and go to the product side. On the product opportunities, what kind of products can we develop? What is the need of the hour? Are we too focused on a niche product segment right now because of COVID? Because we need to think of this whole industry as a very, very wide field, and there are many products out there. So I think I would like Commander Divya Prakash Joshi, sir, you to come in, and Mr. Praveen Nagpal from BPL Medical. I think both of you, your views would be very, very pertinent in terms of the product opportunities, the range of products which this industry is looking at or should look at. So can I ask Commander Divya Prakash to go first, and then Mr. Nagpal?
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. So, my name is Divya Prakash Joshi, and I'm leading the R&D Innovation Center at Hyderabad. Before I get into the product, I just want to say, Medtronic with a mission, which has, been written in the 1960s to contribute to human welfare, is about alleviating pain, restoring health, and extending life. And COVID-19 has actually thrown on our face a very kind of unprecedented and challenging situation. Having said that, recently, if you have been looking at the social media, Medtronic made a home ventilator which can also be used in acute setting for infant and adults, PB560 as an open source code. If anybody wants to use the design, and as a kind of a goodwill gesture, that if that could be used even in India. There are a lot of folks who came in, spoke to me and then to my team, and there are some efforts around the corner, and we are trying to do something in that regard. In terms of product opportunities, there are plenty, and I would take kind of a benchmarking from COVID-19 also. And then some of the things which I have seen in the recent past is more in terms of monitoring parameters of vitals, including the CVG, the cardiovascular, the respiratory intervention, or the metabolic parameters. Opportunities of product line in connectivity. It could also mean devices for bedside monitoring or remote as well as intervention. The third one could be automated delivery of therapy, including medicines and nutrition. And this has come in terms of some of the ventilators which we have, which are high end. We're trying to use the remote control so that remote access, so that the caregiver need not be next to the patient and chances of infection gets lower. The other areas which could be automated trending and analysis of the patient due to prediction possible outcomes of early intervention and reliability of the product. So I would say everybody now knows that the ventilators are important. So ventilation could be one area. The patient monitoring space and the sensor is flooded, but there are opportunities in generators where use radio frequency or microwave. And the philosophy of Medtronic is we diagnose what we can treat, and so the various therapies, the way we can look at is an area of an opportunity in terms of reliability and current multinational manufacturing available. So Medtronic is an R&D center in India, not a manufacturing, but there are opportunities. We work in the field of robotic assisted surgery, spinal implants. We're looking at with a measure robotics. So there are opportunities there. The local players can come in given the context and the market size in terms of awareness, access, and affordability. Maybe if there are other questions, I'll let my other panelists to give his thoughts, and if there are questions, I can give my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Devi Prakash ji. And I think let me move to Mr. Praveen Nagpal for the same question, and then I'll come back to you, Commander Devi Prakash, for other questions. Mr. Nagpal, your views on the product opportunities, the scale of it, what do you think is being worked on, has to be worked on?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Sandeep, and thank you, Commander Devi Prakash. I think it is key that we need to understand that need is mother of invention. And in this current situation, we see a lot of requirement is coming of certain critical care products. It starts with ventilators. We are hearing from all across the world, from India to China to US to every place, that a lot of ventilators are going across. And this is key. BPL also has been coming forefront in this development, and our company in UK, Penlon, has also got 15,000 units of ventilator order from UK government. And we have also come up with a design in India and see that how we fulfill the current requirements if there is more requirements coming from the government and private. Now, the key, which other panelists have also said earlier, is quality. We ensure whatever we are doing is fulfilling the need of patients, and the right quality is being delivered to the service providers and for the patients. Now, in routine, whether there is a COVID or there is no COVID, there are two set of things which come up. One is the new concept, which is innovation and technology, where we come up with a product and we go to the market. Example, if earlier we were giving insulin through a syringe up till a few years back, and now there are pumps made which can be connected to a patient body and the delivery can happen. Now this is a new concept and new things can come up like this. And then certain other things which are existing products, and there are certain improvements coming on that. Example, a CT scan. 30 years back it started with an axial CT scan. Now we are talking about sub-millimeter and fast CT scans which are required in cases like COVID to diagnose how it has impacted the lungs, or in that case, point of care ultrasound unit. So some of these devices are required, which are anyway required whether COVID was there or not there, but in current situation, it has been expedited. Now, the key is where we are playing. We are playing in a market, India, which is at a junction where it has to give healthcare to masses and also to ensure that tertiary care is built up in country. Now, to do that, there has to be a lot of products which are required, which serves both the purposes. Government has also come up with a scheme of Jan Arogya Yojana, which is ensuring that this is the biggest healthcare scheme in the world, which we have got implemented in this country couple of months or couple of years back. And this, I'm sure, once we settle down with COVID, it opens up the opportunity for a lot of products in India, especially coming from Indian companies. Now, we also see a concept which is made in India. Now, whether the technology is coming from the players which have already developed it, or the new technology which is being developed by the organizations in India like BPL and so on, and how to use those technologies. And if I sum it up, like post-COVID, how it will shape up on all these things, looking at the macroeconomics and the infrastructure, what we have seen over the last few years. One thing which will take the pace is on connected health. We talked about e-health, we talked about teleradiology, and so on and so forth. Connected health will take a bigger boost because certain things you would like to do at your home in terms of identifying what the disease is and how to correct it. And there would be certain requirements to get the patient to the hospital for certain key tests, which probably cannot be done at home, but with all safety, because we are talking about a disease which is communicable, and we need to see that apart from key diseases like heart related or cancer related, there is another key disease which has come in our foray is communicable diseases, and we need to see that we are equipped with certain equipment, certain devices which take care of this. We also see that when we are dealing with masses, especially a billion plus population in India, there has to be devices which are there in India from the affordability side of view. The propensity of paying for masses when the healthcare has to provide it to all, a big question will come that this is affordable, and we need to see that certain devices should come into the market which is very much affordable by the government. At the same time, there are certain equipments which fall under tertiary care, fall under innovation, fall under technology side of it, and help us in fighting few new diseases which we have seen over last few months. It also ensures that some of the new technologies like protein separation, plasma separation, which we have seen coming up after the concept of COVID, what we have seen. This is something will take more shape. Certain new things will come up, and there would be a key requirement on all critical care products, at least for next 1 year, and see that we as a country are equipped with all these products at a large. When we have such requirements, it poses some challenge also, and some of it has been already covered by other panelists. But it is key that the infrastructure is there in India, which is starting from components, starting from the people who do the development and design, take the program forward, ensuring the infrastructure of EMS infrastructure or PCB infrastructure, which takes care of new products at a right time, and these such things once there, probably we can be much faster in providing these products to the market. This is from me, and I leave it to other panelists.
Thank you very much, Praveen ji. I think very, very useful. Let me shift gears a little bit and go to the manufacturing side. We have seen challenges as this pandemic was spreading across the world. Various countries are struggling with their own manufacturing challenges. The exports got banned by many countries, component shortages. Many of those things came out. And I would like to get to the readiness we have as a country and as an industry. How ready are we for scale of manufacturing, and what are the challenges we are facing in those terms in scale?
or global, and definitely you need funds. Other panelists also mentioned about it. Now, I'll try to just touch upon those, give you a flavor about the whole gambit of it. Skilled manpower, yes. We have very high numbers of institutions here, the professional ones. So I think we are very much geared on that. Our GDP is low, so it's good in a sense that the skilled manpower cost is low. So in fact, today it's virtually about 1/3 of what a Chinese same level of skills today takes home. And third is our population. There's a very large percentage of a young population in manufacturing. What you need is the real young people, the good hands, the good skills, and adaptability to the new technology. So we have a big percentage of people between age group of 25 to 40. So again, it's a big asset. Market, yes. Again, like any other developing, like, okay, we should not, but say take China. We have a huge local market again, and like it's a high volume, low cost market, very sensitive about the cost. We all know it. And global market, of course, that becomes a complement. So, but the key comes to the capex or the funds. That's where, you know, whether it's to do with semiconductor or you to do with PCB assemblies or PCB, it comes to. Now, capex and fund, I think one of the model which one can easily adopt because of the bank not being that supportive in India is to have a partnership model. So like you take my own company, Indic, we right from the beginning adopted an Indo-Spanish, we are an Indo-Spanish company, and it a collaboration with a European company. So I think that's the way to go, whether it's Indo-European or today there are a lot of opportunities on Indo-American. So I think funding can be tackled, ask me, because you have to be a world-class one, because you should not be only looking for local market. You have to cater to global market too. Now, and yeah, one thing post-COVID brought it is every country is looking to be self-sufficient. So as I said, funds, infrastructure, manpower, we are pretty well off. And about semiconductors, yes, there are challenges. My colleague and one of the panelists will tell you more details about it. But, you know, this is the way you have to live with and go forward. Now, I personally believe that like COVID is more like what we had a Y2K opportunity in 2000. Here, when it comes to the medical equipment side or medical electronics, right? And because this is a very good time where a lot of our middle people are looking for longevity of age. A lot of percentage of the population converted into a middle income group. So I think, and we are very, very savvy about, you know, about adopting a new technology. We did it in Cellular, and I don't see any issues doing it in medical side. So now the other one, I think one we should not forget is India is a place for entrepreneur. It's like it competes with Israel and US. So again, manufacturing helps you a lot. And we are one of them. Like Mr. Alwa talked about, he moved from incubation to, you know, the full-fledged company. So promoting startups is most of us, our way of giving back to society. And Tech Indic, we are doing a lot on that. I've been associated with a lot of incubations, and we hope they will be competing with and or maybe complementing with companies like Skanray. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Can I have your views, Mr. Kushal Patel, on the manufacturing challenges and readiness and what we need to do moving forward? Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Arora. So I'd like to say PCB is probably one of the most important, or the most important component of any electronic product. Indian PCB industry has grown tremendously in last decade or so. The industry has invested manifold, not only to increase the capacity, but also upgrading the capabilities. Most of the medium and the large scale manufacturers, they have already been producing high quality PCBs of up to 8 years in large quantities. So, and right after the pandemic hit India, we quickly realized that the healthcare infrastructure needed urgent upgrades. Hence, the demand for immediate manufacturing medical equipment arose. A lot of Indian manufacturers got inquiries. Indian PCB manufacturers got inquiries for urgent supplies of PCBs, which they are currently obliging. So my point was that Indian PCB industry is ready to supply to medical equipment manufacturing industry. They have been ready, but somehow the medical industry, medical equipment industry, I believe, was neglected by the government. But now with this pandemic, the importance of medical equipment manufacturing in our own country and rather not importing from anywhere has gained traction. In yesterday's interaction with the Honorable Minister of Electronics Information Technology, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, he also emphasized the importance of medical equipment manufacturing, and he reassured that this industry will be given attention to make sure that we not only become self-sustaining, but also become world exporters of medical instruments. I think other components we may not be able to manufacture as of now, but PCB is something that we can manufacture, and it can play a vital role in revamping this industry going forward.
Thank you so much. Are there any? Hello, Mr. Patel, are you speaking or?
No, I thought I unmuted.
Okay. Tanmay, are there any questions from the participants which we need to take in between, or?
Sandeep, there was something to do on the startup and
Yes. I'm coming to that. Yeah. I just in between, if there are any questions from the participants, just taking them for 2-3 minutes, and then we'll come back.
Mr. Arora, we have some questions for the attendees. If you can, Sharon, maybe you can play the questions for the attendees, the poll.
Yes, we'll run the poll question now.
And if you can also explain it to the attendees.
So this is a poll question which will come for around 30 seconds, and everyone has to answer this, and we can get the results on the spot. So we will now end the poll. And here are the results.
We are overwhelmingly in the strongly agree and agree space in terms of new opportunities which will emerge for the Indian medical electronic industry. I think absolutely apt, and the fact that India has the chance to and has to become a power to reckon with in this space is obviously we all agree. And I think as we do that, as we become a powerful force in the world of medical electronics,
Sandeep ji, you are not able to be heard.
I think Mr. Arora's network has some problem. So let me ask another question to Colonel Bhatt. Colonel Bhatt, to make the healthcare affordable and accessible to the common people, it's important that development of new technologies happen indigenously. A startup often brings low-cost solution to the most critical problems, and which is very important for a country like India. My question is, how frequent the startup approach you for developing their prototypes or proof of concept? What are their challenges, and how do you think the opportunity lies ahead for them? Secondly, which are the areas for the startups, R&D, medical electronic design, AI-based diagnostic, etc., for the future?
Great question, Tanmay. I think there would be a lot of startups in the audience. And what I have been noticing, being part of Kaynes Technology, is that since last about 4 to 5 years, there has been positive sign, and most of our young, educated, visiting doctors, they are visiting hospitals, trying to understand what are the problems which can be taken care of. And then they are coming back with the artificial intelligence based solutions to make the medical devices non-invasive and more user-friendly. And most of these devices are using a lot of biosensors. They are using the Internet of Things knowledge. And this is throwing up immense opportunities, allowing the internet, the data storage to be used to its maximum efficiency. Our company has been associated with many medical startups, and I'll be talking nuts and bolts because we have been actively associated with many of the startups, and this answer is also directed towards them. Most of the startups have come up with excellent and totally innovative concepts which are more India-centric and more having problems which we as Indians face. So they have tremendous usage and application in the domestic market. However, apart from the market itself, which is always a challenge, these startups face, according to me, 4 major challenges. The first, obviously, which cuts across all segments, is the funding. But I think the smart projects, the innovative concepts do get the initial funding. The problem here is because our startups do not realize that the product development life cycle is slightly longer, or I will say frustratingly longer than any other normal product. So they do not dovetail the complete requirements for at the initial funding stage itself. So unfortunately, many of these startups are not able to get the growth funding, and their product does not get into the market. So my advice to these startups is that when they are at the concept stage itself, they should correctly assess what is going to be the complete product realization from the point of view of time, energy, as well as funds. Thereafter, once this has been done, the second biggest challenge, which I will say the startups face, is that of complete product realization. Now, most of the startups are more focused on bringing the concept, bringing the POC, doing the prototypes. They are not looking at the larger picture of product realization, which generally a seasoned and established player like anybody like Siemens, they will have an entire team focusing on product realization. So we have seen that most of these startups come to us, and when they are coming to us, they feel that they have a prototype, but we feel that they have a POC, and there is also we feel that they are not transparent enough to tell whether they have done the entire design concept, they have taken care. That means, have they validated the design for manufacturing? Have they validated for servicing, testing? Have they really checked the design aspect from the point of view of function, quality, reliability, and price? Here, price is very, very important. If at the design stage you have not pegged the price, later on you cannot relook at it. And what we also see, that the startups are too flexible at the design stage. That means they are not firming up the design. They keep adding the features. So it is very important. The startups should be able to scope initially what all features which are India-centric, or whichever market they are going, they are applicable to that, are spec'd properly, and then accordingly they progress with the design. Because too many changes we have seen in the design can actually kill the product at the initial stage itself. Next is, I have seen that most of the entrepreneurs are not looking at the test and the test protocols. The test plan which is required to be made when you are trying to productize your device is very, very essential, because the test plan will also, you need to make your test fixtures. Now, if you have planned it initially, and if the fixtures have to be made, then you can dovetail into your entire project timeline. Thereafter is the reliability. Now, reliability is not just doing your burning. Reliability is a subject by itself. And it's very important that if the startups have to gain the trust which they are looking from their end customer, they have to deliver a reliable as well as functional and a quality product. So the product has to go through its highly accelerated life test. It has to go through highly accelerated stress test. It has to ensure that it passes all that. Now, it takes a lot of time, money to do this type of activity. Thereafter, if there is, we find that India is, Mr. Alva was also indicating, the mechanical finishes are not as good as what we are looking at, unless we really put our effort to make the plastic moldings come out with excellent finish. So tooling is another aspect where startups need to focus. They need to get through the complete process and cycle, right from the studio design to the industrial design, to the mold flow analysis, and to the nuts and bolts to get the first of sample correct the first time. Because too many corrections can actually lead to a lot of delay and a lot of problems in the tool itself. So if once the product realization challenge is done, that means you have actually meticulously documented all your alpha, beta, your proto, and your complete pre-production trials. And then you have finalized the complete process capabilities, your quality standards, your test parameters, your control plans. This will ensure that you will be able to deliver a quality product, which will not fail in the hands of customer, which is very, very important. The third major challenge which most of these startups face is obviously the regulatory compliance and certification. Now, as you know, medical devices have to be verified, have to be checked. Now, this part is a activity which many of the bigger companies have actually mastered it. They know how to go, how to do it, how to completely spec it properly at the initial stage itself, so that your product passes through the EMI, EMC complex or the vibration test. All these tests can be passed if you have done it initially very, very meticulously. Certification obviously has to be done for the product, and obviously the EMS manufacturer who is building that particular product. Fourth and the last challenge, which I feel, seeing the today's scenario, is regarding the security and privacy of data. Now, the startups are not looking at that. When I talk about security, I'm talking about end-to-end security, right from the hardware, the software, the app, the cloud, and to the delivery. That means your entire embedded needs to be checked for encryption. You need to check whether there is no way anybody in between this complete value chain can do a hacking. At the same time, please remember you are holding data. Privacy is very, very important, and the data is of all the patients who are your end customers. So this again cannot be done by the startup themselves. This requires a third party who has to do it end to end, right from the hardware to software, and then deliver whether your particular platform or the hardware is actually not going to be prone for hacking. So to sum it up all, the COVID has thrown up a lot of opportunities, especially in the areas of infection control, respiratory and smart devices, and it will open up a lot of opportunities with different business plans. It could be a SaaS type of business plan also, wherein on a monthly basis you will have devices which could be with most of the patients. They need not come to the hospitals at all. The entire data is on the cloud. Somebody is seeing that data, somebody is giving you advice, and you will be only going for emergency treatment. So this particular segment and the startup needs to focus and put their time and energy on the product realization. If they do that, they'll be able to overcome this and bring out excellent products both for the domestic as well as export market. Thank you, Tanna.
Thank you so much, Colonel Sharad Bhatt. I think very, very good inputs for the startups in the audience today. And I think, one last question on the startups. You covered the product side very well. Mr. Praveen Nagpal, I would like for them to secure funding. What are the best known methods for them to secure funding, and how should they look at marketing their product? How do they take it to market? What avenues do they have with their limited resources to take it to market? So, Mr. Nagpal.
Thank you. I think I'll take the second question first. When we are talking about startups, Colonel Bhatt has covered from the product side, but it is key that when the startups come up and developing a product, they are very clear from the beginning that who is the pitcher and who is the catcher. If they themselves are, making a product and ensuring that they have all ends tied up in terms of getting the right product out, who is going to take that? Are they having some customers who have been segmented? They have understood whether this is going to be a value product where it can go in thousands, or it can be a performance or a premium product. How is it getting positioned in the market? What's competition doing? I think it's very clear and key that they need to map their outcome with competition and not so or a new product, and how they will make competition with each other. Once they do that, it is important again that they have some marketing initiatives which is done around the product, especially coming from the demand generation point of view and connecting with the customer. When they are generating the demand, it has to come through customer. They need to see what is the right channel to do that. Is it their own teams, or they have a distribution network, or their extended arms and partners who are going in market and talking to doctors and creating the key opinion leaders about the product and seeing that this is going very much there. So ultimately, it is end to end. When you are conceiving a product and thinking about it and designing and developing, and when the product is out, no startup can leave the work just at the product thinking that this product will go and get sold. They need to see that who is going to use that, how it is going to help humanity, how the business model runs across it, how it's going to touch the customer. I think this is very critical piece. That's why we have seen that out of 100 startups, less than 5% are able to get the desired commercial results from the product, rather than having everyone enjoying the commercialization of that project. So very key that not only the product, but also we see that how it is going to end up in the market. Now coming to the second question in terms of funding. Now we have been going through some unprecedented time. The economy is down, and it has happened in the past as well. And we have seen healthcare is one segment where the possibilities of funding dried up is not there. These are the times when countries across the world are thinking about how to strengthen their healthcare systems. And there are certain, investors in any form, whether it is seed investment or angel investment or private equity, or is it coming from the banks? Or if you see in India, there are a lot of conglomerates are talking about coming into healthcare. There are big companies who want to see that how they venture into healthcare space. And key is, this is not only for India, this is for the global. This is for the ensuring that, we go all across in the world and seeing that these products are getting positioned. And when we think about it, there are different possibilities of getting this funding. Government is also giving some kind of funding for some new products which are coming. This is not only India government, but certain other developing and developed countries governments also are giving the funding in terms of those who are doing development in the country. So very key that what product we are bringing in, what scale we want to take it, whom to approach for this funding at the beginning of designing of the product, or once the product is ready, then go to the next level. So I think based on this, this can be taken forward, and there would be many opportunities available post-COVID on healthcare.
Thank you so much. Mr. Alva, are you there? One question from participants, from attendees for you particularly. Mr. Alva from Scanray.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So Alvaji, question for you from one of the attendees is that how did you deal with global patents? As the medical device industry is very aggressive in terms of going after competition, and they are always looking at, trying to prove patent violations. So what approach did you take from a patent standpoint in the global market?
See, the first point in developing a product is to do a patent scan. When we started, our first product was in the dental X-ray segment and then the mobile X-ray segment. So we had about 6 or 7 patents that we had applied for. Even before announcing this design, we went and checked if anybody else has a similar design that is registered. And later on, the issue of taking a patent all over the globe is the cost of patenting. And we have checked if this patent is something that people will copy at any cost, or they will take it only if it is seen visibly outside. So one of the advantages that Indian companies have over Chinese is that the trust on Indian companies on IP is very, very high. And in Scanray, we made sure that none of the people who joined from competitors carried any information from them. We had a very strong IP team that used to scan every single design that comes from public domain, and also take care to register the designs which we think is innovative. And you'll be surprised to know that a lot of things that you think is something that you struck as creative will be there somewhere. So even if you think you have not copied, it's always better for you to go and scan and see if somebody else in the world also got a similar idea.
Thank you so much. Quickly, 1 or 2 more questions for all the panelists, and this is an open question. where do startups who are working on this medical devices technology can get information in terms of getting their devices certified and validated? Can you guide the startups towards a single source where they can go for getting certification and validation, please?
See, medtech startups, we have an incubation center in Scanray itself. If the startup is, if they have a working model, they need not share the IP with us. There's no restriction on sharing IP with us or partnering with us. They can come over, sit with our engineers, sit with our IP team, sit with our advanced test facility people also and get it. Other than that, there are incubation centers elsewhere that can help startups. The most important phase is when you have to scale, have a facility and raise venture fund. At that time, to prepare the business doc and to make a project plan, established companies may be helpful, or there are other agencies, even IIT Hyderabad has got, IIT Delhi has got, IIT Indian Institute of Science has got, you can also approach them.
Thank you very much. Also, one more question to all the panelists. Non-invasive medical devices are expected to hold the largest market share. How can IoT-based market contribute to the demand of non-invasive products in the medtech medical electronic market? So Alvaji, for you or for anyone else who would like to answer across the panelists. Right, that's right, yeah.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Alva. Yeah.
Yeah, what exactly is the question?
How can the IoT side link to the non-invasive devices, and IoT can have a play in terms of, whether collecting data, whether, sending messages to the devices. So how do we make the non-invasive devices more interactive through IoT?
No, yeah. IoT and invasive or non-invasive is totally disconnected things. IoT is applicable for invasive and non-invasive as a whole. But if you're talking about medical equipment, one of the things that can be very, very useful is to provide application support at the ICU or OT itself. So one of the things, let's say in ventilators, if we have 30,000 ventilators installed all over the world, all over the country, you're not able to support them, you could have a remote control where specialists are guiding them from a remote location, and that will save a lot of time and cost. The second is diagnostics, prognostics and diagnostics and service support. So this is what is already used, but there is artificial intelligence, deep learning, and so many things that are coming up, but not really implemented in a big way as of today.
So just to add to Mr. Alva's comment, right, and the answer is, IoT, artificial intelligence is being used for non-invasive as invasive both. A lot of data, which is, like just for giving an example of pacemaker connectivity and hosting the data on cloud, and maybe in terms of looking at to a surgeon or to a doctor, using artificial intelligence on his mobile, what is the diagnosis, instead of looking at so many CT scans, and you can, the artificial intelligence can use and say that, what is the best. So there has been use of data connectivity, artificial intelligence, but in both the cases of invasive and non-invasive, as Mr. Alva rightly pointed out. And I think there's not kind of a this or that, but it's both and on.
I also just add on, on the other panelists, what they have said. I just give by two examples. I pick up ECG. And in ECG, we have a device which ensures that we get the interpretation done on the device itself, and which has a correlation of 97% of what a doctor would do that. So this is very high correlation. So then this information is used there and then in the equipment, and we see that data is available. We also have a device from where this information travels to a cloud, and exactly this information has to be there from the previous times and the current time, and doctor can see it online and decide how the patient is doing from previous time to now, and what needs to be done differently, whether he has to come to a hospital or he can get the ECG done at the home. So there are many other devices, both invasive and non-invasive, where this information helps in trending, and information helps in how a diagnosis is made and how a treatment is done. So there is a lot of possibilities going around.
I think we have 2 more poll questions. Tanmay, do you want to get those done? We are almost out of time. Kindly.
Yes, please. We can quickly have that. Anjali, can you please help that?
Yes.
Okay, this is also good to see. There's strong hope. Almost 85% people believe that government will come out with favorable policies for this industry. And we have one more question, right, Tanmay?
Yes. Anjali, can you please help us with the question?
Okay, so we have the attendee view on what particular segment will see the maximum growth or maximum traction. So patient monitoring systems coming at the top, and then handheld products, for example, glucometers for home care at number 2, diagnostic imaging at number 3, and then therapeutic at number 4. Great, good inputs. Thanks to all the participants, all the attendees for sharing your inputs on the poll. And to all the panelists, thank you very much. This has been wonderful session. I think the amount of knowledge shared in this session was tremendous. I'm sure all the attendees would agree with me that they all gained a lot. And I think, Tanmay, I'm sure there are a bunch of questions which are unanswered because of time. And if you can figure out a way to get back, or maybe send a email white paper to all the attendees with some clarifications. And I think before we close, I think I would like to invite Barbara Muller, who is the Group Exhibition Director, Electronica and Protectronica, based in Munich, to close the session. So Barbara, over to you, please, for the session closure.
Thank you, Mr. Aurora. I'm so glad that we came together to discuss a topic which is the need of the hour, actually. Today's situation has underlined the fact that healthcare industry is going to be the shining future, where we will see new innovations and technologies coming in to prevent another calamity of this scale and not just eliminate the coronavirus. I would like to personally thank the eminent panelists and our moderator, who are representing some of the best companies in India and have given us insights about the medical electronics industry. I'm sure the delegates would have benefited from the same. The presence of 800 attendees from the start till the end of the webinar is a testimony to this fact. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar and making it so successful. We will be coming up with more interesting topics as per the needs of the industry in future, and will keep you informed about the same. So stay home, stay safe, and I wish all of you, your family, friends, and loved ones pass through this epidemic safely. Have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you all the attendees. Thank you once again to all the panelists. It has been my pleasure to host you all today. And thank you to Tanmay, Urmi, and team. Thank you, Barbara. And to all the attendees, folks, stay safe. And from our industry standpoint, let's bring all the solutions we can to make sure that we provide value to the medical electronics field. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.